All right, welcome back to the Florida Football Insiders. We have reached double digits of the college football season. We are going into week 10 of the college football season. Had a pretty exciting weekend over in the state of Florida. I think the Florida teams went 5-2. Coach, finally got back on the winning track with some of these teams in the state of Florida. The only losers were the Gators against Georgia, and then we had USF going down to Houston. Welcome in, Coach.
Well, it's good to be back here. It's a beautiful day again in Tampa. Can't beat it. It's absolutely beautiful. Took my daughter to the bus stop this morning and got back here and ready to go.
How's Halloween? We're recording this on Halloween. How's Halloween in the Leavitt household with the girls?
Well, little Isabella is going as a pink cowgirl tonight. And had to buy all that outfit. And then Sophia, who played the championship game yesterday, is going as Luigi.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, I saw on social media you guys were in the championship game with the flag football. Tell the audience how it turned out.
Well, it was really exciting because in the semifinals, it came down to a last play right on the goal line, and Sophia did a good job rushing the quarterback, and it was incomplete pass. But the championship game, they got beat, and but at least they got the championship game, and they were certainly sad after not winning. And I love that attitude. You go after all of it.
Yeah.
She wasn't in a good mood, so I can appreciate that. I'm not usually in a good mood if I didn't win a championship game either. But we got through it, and then she wanted to go out and throw the football right after the game again to kind of hone in on the skills. So I thought that was impressive.
Now, are your girls college football NFL fans? Do they like to watch it?
Well, I take them to the Bucs games, when it's not a night game, in the afternoon. I'm going to go to see the Rams next Sunday. Certainly that's a 4:30 kickoff. So we'll go to that game together. But, they like college football, and, they certainly watched it when I was coaching.
Yep.
All the various stops at Colorado, certainly. The 49ers in Colorado and Oregon and, so forth, Florida State, FAU, SMU. I had a number of stops there for a while, and they were following it pretty close.
Very good. Very good. Very, very good. All right, let's get to some of the action in the state of Florida. First off, I want to lead off with, you called it last week. You thought UCF could beat Cincinnati, and they did. Close game, really good game there at the end in Orlando. Just your general thoughts. Nice win for Gus Malzahn to get to 6-2.
It's a real big win for Central Florida. I thought that was such an even game, before, but Cincinnati's, had been so close. They almost lost a few games, and going on the road on the grass at Central Florida, and Central Florida just played better, and won the game. So it's a big win for Central Florida, real big win, because they had to win that game, and have a chance at the conference.
Absolutely.
They're just winding down right now.
It's them and Tulane at the top of the AAC, and they see Tulane in a couple weeks. So big game. They got to get through Memphis, but again, they got Tulane in a couple of weeks. Memphis won't be an easy game to win on the road. And again, Willie Fritz and Tulane, that will be a really good game, most likely probably for the number one spot there in that conference. It looked like to me, I saw the stats. I didn't see much of the game. The backup quarterback played for Central Florida. Was it an injury? I don't know if the Plumlee kid got hurt, but the backup quarterback came in, was 15-21 for 180 yards. So it looked like he played pretty well.
Impressive now, I'm telling you. And for people, you've always, like I always felt like you it's hard if you've got a really good starter. It's hard to get a number 3 quarterback. Sometimes you get a number 2 guy.
Right.
And you saw it around the country that, look at SMU. I mean, I'm kind of jumping off on a tangent, but they have Mordecai, and then Preston Stone breaks his collarbone.
Yep.
They had to go 3 quarterback. They had a lot of injuries. SMU's got a lot of injuries, and they still won big against Tulsa.
Yep.
Central Florida, same thing. Brought in their backup quarterback, did a great job. You got to prepare those guys. That's just coaching and getting guys ready. And Central Florida again, their backup did a great job.
And even at USF, I know the backup, we knew the backup was going to play a week or so ago, but he looked like he played pretty functionally well. They scored 27 points. They didn't beat Houston, but he looked like he was at least functional in the offense and could move the ball a little bit.
No, I thought he did a pretty good job. I thought he threw the ball well. He ran. They had some quarterback run plays in there. He doesn't run. He's not that fast and all that, but he's a big, strong guy. And I thought at the beginning of the game, South Florida did a nice job offensively with keeping Houston off balance. I mean, they did a very good job. And then, then Houston kind of got a hold of things, and of course, South Florida is struggling on defense. And
Right.
Again, like I said, I don't ever want to talk about a coach because, I don't know the scenario, and coaches don't get jobs unless they have a very good resume. And they've done really good. I'm sure it's a personnel situation, and where they've just got so many guys banged up, that's hard to slow people down. And then you've got to, you got to do a great job trying to be creative as best you can. It's hard to hide players,
Right. Right.
really do that. So, but SMU did a heck of a job with all the injuries. Central Florida, and nobody cares. They want to hear about the injuries. They don't want to hear about that. It's just a reality. You either win or you lose, and this time of year, you have to hope that you can prepare enough depth that you prepare for those things to happen.
Yeah, USF falls to 1-7. They go to Temple this week. Again, this is a game they probably should win. I mean, this is one of those games on the schedule you look at that if you're Jeff Scott, an important game for Jeff Scott, you need to win this game against a team that's either as struggling as much as you are or worse in Temple. This is a key game, I think, for Jeff Scott.
Well, it's always hard to win a game, and players got to know that. Coaches certainly know that it's hard to win a game. You've got to play extremely hard and well throughout the entire game. It's not going to be easy going up to Temple. I don't know what the weather's going to be like.
Right.
Up there in Philadelphia in that area, and it could be cold and windy.
Nasty. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, but you hopefully the guys will play at a high level. They're certainly capable of beating them, but I mean, you can't go and just think you're going to win the game. You better play extremely well to do it.
Right.
I mean, on the outside, we can say what we want. Oh, it appears this or appears that, but that's not always reality. What's happened with South Florida is, you've gone through 3 years. If Jeff's had a hard time getting everything going in the right direction, and then this year, on top of everything else, he's had a tough non-conference schedule, and then he's had a number of injuries, and that's always tough, But we're in a world of bottom line, and you win or you lose, and and he's aware of that. I'm sure those coaches are working as hard as they possibly can.
Sure.
To try to put their team in a position to win games, and but Temple's not going to be an easy game. I'm just like I'm telling you, Central Florida. I might take Memphis on this one. I'm telling you, you go to Memphis.
Tricky
Memphis
game.
Football team. Houston barely beat Memphis on like the last play of the game or whatever. It was like a 1-point game.
Yes.
And now you got Central Florida on grass going to turf, and I think it's turf up there. I believe so.
Yeah, I think it is up at the Liberty Bowl.
It's been a while, but that's not an easy place to play. It really isn't. And Memphis has got a very capable football team. So these are tough games. They really are, and hopefully your leadership, the quarterback will continue to get better for South Florida. And again, they've got to find a way to play defense. They know that. And it's no secret. To me, the foundation was always defense and kicking game. Those two things. You've got to be year in, year out. You've got to be very strong in those areas, and then you hope to have a really heck of a quarterback. Those ingredients were always important to me.
Nice win by Willie Taggart at FAU against UAB, a pretty good UAB team. FAU with a nice 24-17 win. Again, UAB is going through some transition this year without Bill Clark in charge. They got an interim coach, but a nice win for Willie Taggart.
24-17, you're right. And after they lost in an overtime game to UTEP on the road, and I talked to Kevin Patrick, the D-line coach that's at FAU this week. And in fact, I talked to him the day before the game. It was a big game for them. Home game. UAB don't want to go down to 3-6.
Right.
So they're 4-5, something like that. And they got a chance. They've got the rest of the teams that they're playing. They can beat all of them. And for them having a losing season a year ago to try to come back and have another winning season. We had a winning season when I was there the one year and
Yep.
played bowl game the year of COVID. Then they had a losing season. Then this year they don't want to have two losing seasons together. So I think they'll pull it out. I think they'll have a winning season. I think they'll look it's like they've got things going in the right direction. They've got good coaches. So, hopefully for their sake they'll continue to win.
We'll hit on Florida State quickly. A nice win against Georgia Tech, a team there. Again, what I like is you're beating the teams you're supposed to beat convincingly. Nice job by Norvell up in Tallahassee beating Georgia Tech. Jordan Travis played really well at quarterback. Again, they're getting there. They're not quite there yet, personnel-wise and all that, but they're getting there. They're showing some progress.
Well, they lost a number of games in a row. When
Right.
they lose three in a row.
Yep.
Don't want to lose that fourth game to Georgia Tech. And, that was a game they needed to win. They did win it soundly, and they should. But these next games they have are not going to be easy. It's going to be tough, and I don't know who they have this week.
Miami. The rivalry, Miami. Yep.
That game at Miami?
I think it is. I think it's in Miami, but I'll double check while we're talking here. Go ahead.
State definitely needs to win this game. And Miami's not that good this year. I mean, they've got talent. I think Miami's got talent, but somewhere along the line, something's wrong. Yep. Florida State needs to win this game. This is a big one. Now, I'm telling you, this is one that the people inside Florida State, they're not going to want to lose to Miami. So
the game is in Miami. It's in Miami.
Miami won a close game against Virginia. I thought Virginia was going to win that game. Really, it was 3-3 forever, and somehow they found a way in overtime I think, to win. And Virginia's not that good this year, and not as strong as they were, and Miami's not. So you got some teams that are not as strong. So
in these big in-state rivalry games, you guys with UCF, Florida State, Miami, Florida State. How do you handle the week when it comes to recruiting? Are you able to bring more? I mean, talk to us a little bit about, are you able to bring more these home games that you bring recruits? How do you sell these kids in these rivalry games when you have a big rivalry game like this?
Well, it's not hard. It's very easy. I mean, all these kids grow up in Florida and they know about Miami, they know about Florida State. And you're going to probably have all your top recruits there on one side or the other. You're all recruiting the same guys. And so it's a big deal. And the players understand that. What you want to do is just make sure, like always, that you keep the practices away from distractions, and keep their focus. And that's usually the thing I get concerned about more than anything else. When you get the outside influences and you get social media and you get everything else, the guys will be on both teams. They'll be up ready to play, but make sure they're focused on the plan and the execution. And that's delivered during the week at practice and in meetings, so that they're going to get hit when they get away from practice and meetings. So you got to make sure that their focus is great during those times.
Is there extra attention on the recruiting aspect of this with the high school kids in a week like this? Let's say you're Miami and you're the home team and you're going to know you're going to bring in probably some of your bigger recruits to this game. How much time is exhausted by whether it's the staff or your support staff? Making sure this particular weekend's a really good recruiting weekend. You got all your ducks in a row from a recruiting perspective when you're bringing all these high end level kids to campus for this kind of game.
Well, most of that's done by the recruiting coordinator and his staff. A lot of times they have a separate department anymore. I mean, I remember years ago I went up to visit Brent Venables. I think I was a defense coordinator, might have been at Oregon. And Brent and I obviously go way back. And what I was most impressed with when I went to Clemson, this was years ago, was they had a whole other department that did nothing. I mean, you had the head guides overseeing all the recruiting and his assistant, and you had somebody ahead of all social media. And then you had all these people that come in, these students come in to check social media all day long. I mean, it's a whole other department, almost like in the NFL when you have your
Scouting
GM
department, your scouters. Yep.
Yeah. And so they do most of the legwork, Now your coaches are going to get a hold of those top players, and like they always do, though. Whether it's this week or any week, you got to stay on top of them all the time because you're building the relationship. So, usually that's not going to affect the coaches. The coaches are trying to get ready to win a football game.
Gotcha.
And what's more anything else in recruiting is win. So
Yep.
focus on the plan and winning the game, and that's going to help you get recruits more than anything else.
Right. Go back to the Miami game for a second. Overtime rules have changed in college football a little bit. They're trying to minimize how many overtimes they're playing, and number of plays, and all that stuff. I think the rule is now once you get to the third overtime, we're not going first and from the 25 anymore, first and 10 from the 25. It's one play, it's a 2-point play. Your thoughts on that, and as a defensive guy, having to defend a 2-point play versus having to defend 25 yards?
It's interesting. When I was head coach of South Florida, we went in overtime, double overtime, 6 times.
Wow.
And we never lost. Now, that's why maybe I'll never want to be in that situation again, that we would. But I never really liked. I just accepted it. I never really, I kind of, being in the NFL, I kind of like the way the NFL set up more, because you just play the game.
Right.
You don't just get stuck in the red zone, and obviously if you're and there's a lot of factors there. I don't know. They put that rule in because the overtime kept going and going and going. It was unfair to the players, and I understand that.
Right.
Just what it is. I don't really think about whether I like it or not. I just, you just accept it, and you practice it. I used to really, and we did a good job. I even remember at SMU, I thought Sonny Dykes did a very good job of that, of practicing those situations. Like anything, you got to practice for that. You got to prepare for that. You got to have your 2-point plays. You got to have your the defenses that you're going to call in those situations. But that needs to be worked on well beforehand.
Were you a guy that liked to pressure? Were you a guy that liked to pressure on these 2-point plays? Because obviously you still have the factor of you can run the ball in these plays as well, and with so much RPO and all that stuff. Were you a guy that liked to really pressure the quarterback and the offense in these 2-point plays?
Pretty much, yeah. I didn't like to sit and wait. I want to get something one way or the other quickly. I mean, you have your defenses where you're going to drop 8, and also just rush 4. I had all kinds of different calls, that I used in all scenarios. But for the most part, if it's on the line, I probably was going to bring people for the most part.
I got you. All right, let's go to Jacksonville, the cocktail party. The game, the Georgia, Florida. Obviously, Georgia wins the game, and it doesn't look as the difference at the end. The margin looks bigger than it was. Obviously, it was a kind of some separation early in the game. I think 28-3. Give Florida credit; they get 28-20 mid-third quarter, and then Georgia kind of pulls away late. What were you're watching that game? First play of the game, Richardson gets hit in the hip, and it pretty much ends his ability to, I won't say ability to run, but it looked like to me their game plan changed a little bit when he got hit that first play of the game, where he wasn't going to be much of a running factor in that game.
Well, it pretty much showed, what I said last week going into the game. I thought the line of scrimmage was going to be the key.
Yep.
And I thought that Georgia just had a better line of scrimmage on both sides, and I think that showed up really. I mean, you can talk about a lot of other things, but, the ability to run the ball and the ability to do some things that, Georgia's just too strong. They're just better, than Florida is right now. And, Florida's 4-4, I think right now. Is that right? I think something like that.
4-4. Yep.
So, we're seeing that Florida's not they're a good team. They've got talent, but they're not a great team, and it will be interesting to see how they do the rest of the way, out. But Georgia's just better. I just thought they're a better football team all the way around. Talked about a lot of different things, but, the ability to run the ball and the ability to stop the run is, I thought was going to be the key. And I think it was.
Yeah, no doubt. Florida 4-4 goes to Texas A&M. Kind of another dumpster. I won't say, I shouldn't use the word dumpster fire, but it's ugly in Texas A&M with as poorly as they're playing. A lot of speculation. Not that Jimbo's going to get fired, but about changes, coaching changes, offensive philosophy, all that kind of stuff. When you're in the middle of something like that, when it's not going well, how do you keep the coaches focused on the plan ahead, the next game, and the players on the next game when there's stuff swirling around the program?
Well, you're honest with your players, obviously. I haven't been in that situation. To be honest with you, I've never, even at South Florida, we won a lot. So I was never really in that type of scenario.
Again, they were preseason number 6 in the country, and they're like 4-5 now, or 4-4. Or A&M's got lost 5 games. Lots of, I mean, again, top huge recruiting class. They've had some off the field issues. They've suspended a bunch of their freshman recruits, things like that. It's just been a really, really rough year in College Station.
Well, you like I always do. I'm always pretty honest with the players. I'm telling them up front the way it is.
Yeah.
I don't usually sugarcoat things or hide things, and and I always talk about also with this time of year. You play for your seniors. These guys have given an awful lot to the program, and they deserve to go out in a big way.
Yeah.
And that's always a motivator, right there, away from everything else, because hopefully the guys care about those players. Now you're playing a lot of younger players, but also that's an opportunity for them to play. It's a great environment. I mean, I don't know how in the world you can't be up for any of these games that they're playing. If you got too many guys that are not up for these games and you're playing the wrong guys,
Right.
you better figure it out and play the guys that it means that much to them, that they get themselves ready to play. And I always tell players, nobody's going to get you ready to play. It's not going to be some big motivational speech that I'm going to make or this or that. I said, it's your responsibility to get yourself ready, however you do it. But there's so few opportunities. They have to figure that out, and however that is. But with all the different things, the distractions, it's the same as anything else. You try to keep away from the distractions, stay focused on the practice and those things, because those distractions are going to be there in our world, and they're going to have to, your players, they're going to hear it, they're going to know it, they're going to see it. And if you're playing a lot of young players, sometimes there's immaturity there.
That was my next question. How do you help young kids that have been high school stars their whole life transition to college, and maybe things aren't going as well as they think they should be going? They're playing, but they're not playing as well as they're going to play a year down the road. How do you work on that transition to college life when, again, you don't know what everybody's backgrounds, different background, kids come from different backgrounds. How do you help that transition to college, that more professionalism that you have to have as a college player versus when you were in high school?
Well, for me, I always did one-on-one with the top leaders, and even if they're young, freshmen or whoever. There's certain players that you definitely want to keep in the fold, that you want to keep going. And I did a lot of one-on-ones. You can talk to the team, you can do all that, but you want to get their attention. You go one-on-one, you find them, and you pick them up at the dorm if you have to, or their apartment or whatever. You just get in a situation. Don't always do it in your office. Although I did a lot in the office too, because it's just so hard. But make sure you get one-on-one especially when these things are going on, and try to get through them the best you can. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's at least what I did, trying to grab their attention. But, there's a lot of things that happen. It's part of life, and it's part of the things you have to deal with. I mean, the microcosm of football is life. You're gonna have all kinds of things that are gonna happen, and people are gonna go through some tough situations. You got to, and nobody's gonna feel sorry for you. And a lot of times, not everybody's gonna come to your aid. You got to find a way to do it.
Right.
And
this is it's probably the first time in their life, a lot of these kids, that there's been adversity when they've not been the best player, they've not been the star player in their community, in their high school.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter went through it. She lost championship game. She wasn't in a good mood at all. I told her, I said, she wanted to go out and throw the football, so we did. And I told her, I said, your mom is going to tell you, what you want to hear. I said, I'm telling you what you need to hear.
Right.
And I was pretty direct with her about, it's all about the team. It's not about individuals. It's
right.
Going to go through some tough moments, and you got to rise up, and nobody's going to feel sorry for you, and you just got to get better, and the only way to get better is to practice, and practice hard, work, and all these players, same thing. They just you got to get better. You got to keep working at it. You got to keep staying with it. Don't ever give up.
Right.
And never do that. I've told my daughter that many times. Never ever give up, ever. And so. It's just part of life, and sometimes you can get through the players, sometimes you can't.
We had an ugly situation, a guy you know well, Coach Harbaugh, Michigan State. In the post game, there they had a little rumbling there at Michigan Stadium up in Ann Arbor. And after the game, kind of an altercation. 4 players from Michigan State have been suspended as a result of the altercation. Again, part of a rivalry game, of course. It's the tension's high, the emotions are high. What do you say stuff before games? Hey, stay away from these confrontations, because it was a ugly situation that kind of ensued there in Michigan.
You do, and I did. I said, man, it's about what we do in that field. I talked a lot about it before going into games like that because of personal fouls. I didn't want it to hurt the team.
Right.
And I talked to the players during the game about it. And especially if it got to this or that, yes, I did talk a lot about that. And I brought it up on big rivalry games. It's tough. It's a challenge because, this is your quote hated rival. And those emotions are very high, and it's a very aggressive sport, and you got men or guys that are very aggressive by nature. Yep. On the field. So those things, but you gotta have the discipline. You got to understand that it's just going to hurt your own team, and if you love your teammates, then you'll walk away from those things. And I practice those things too. Like I'd get into a room and I'd maybe simulate somebody, swinging on you. And I always told our players, you don't ever back down from anybody, but you never swing back. You never hit. You never do any of those. I said, just grab hold of them by the jersey and just look them in the eye and say, let's go, let's play. But don't swing. Just grab hold. Right. And we would practice those things.
That's smart.
So, well, what's interesting is I took that from Harbaugh at the Niners, and he, and lo and behold, when it happened was Michigan State, Michigan. Harbaugh's game. So he might need to practice. Maybe they need to practice that more. I don't know. But it was Michigan State. I don't know all the details, so I don't know what all happened, but I heard about it.
Give the audience a sense of how feisty Coach Harbaugh is. He was a former player, obviously, at Michigan, NFL player. He's always been known for being that kind of feisty guy as a quarterback, and then now as a head coach. Talk a little bit about Coach Harbaugh, about just how he gets into the game. I mean, he is into it.
I loved him, and I loved working for him. I really did. I mean, he and I became close when I was head coach of South Florida, and he was head coach at Stanford. And we went to different events, and we always kind of sat out away from everybody else and just talked football. So when I got let go at South Florida, he wanted me to come to Stanford as a DC, and I couldn't because different things are going on. But when he went to the 49ers, he hired me right away, and I loved him. During OTAs, a lot of the veterans at the end of OTAs would leave. They'd go. We wouldn't have them. We were able to keep the free agents and rookies, for another 3 or 4 practices.
Right.
And Jim used to suit up, put the helmet on, the pads, everything. Quarterback. And I'll never forget this one time. I went ahead and played linebacker. and it was pretty funny because he was calling out the signals. I was standing right at the line, looking at him right in the eye, like I was going to pressure him or whatever.
That's funny.
And we were grown men that had no business doing that, but we did. It was a lot of fun.
It was Dixie Holland circa 1975.
Yeah, it really was funny. And then when I was looking at Jim at his eyes, he's quarterback, it was like it was real. It was like we're gonna play. So I started thinking, well then heck, I better get going here. I hope my back's not too sore.
That's why y'all went to a Super Bowl, man. Intensity. He is an intense guy for sure, and that's what made him a great coach for sure. All right, couple things on the national landscape, and I'll get you out of here. We got some huge games this weekend. 3 big matchups. You got Alabama LSU in Baton Rouge. You got Notre Dame and Clemson up in South Bend, and then you got the showdown in Athens, Tennessee and Georgia. Just give me your thoughts. Tennessee, Georgia. Top probably 1, 2, 1, 3 in the country. the biggest game in the country of the year so far, but those other two games have major playoff implications as well.
That Tennessee Georgia game is going to be something else now. I've been so impressed with Tennessee.
Yep.
What they've been able to do and how they came back and how they played last week. I mean, what they did at Kentucky.
They smashed Kentucky. I mean, that's your guy, Coach Stoops.
Yeah.
They destroyed them.
Yeah, they're a good football team. So I mean, that's going to be a heck of a game now. They all are now, and going in, and I'm telling you, Alabama going to LSU.
I agree.
That's going to be tough. That's going to be, I mean, because LSU's, they're going to be ready. Yeah, those people down there, they're already tailgating today. That's going to be unbelievable. I mean, that's going to be a heck of a game as well. Notre Dame,
Clemson.
Those are good games, boy. I don't know. It'd be fun to be a part of any of those games. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, I used to love those games. We went to Auburn, or we went to Florida State when Coach Bowden was there, or when we played Kansas when they were really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, a top team, and those West Virginia games. I used to get just stoked. Are you kidding? I mean, you live for that. And I mean, those games, like these games this weekend, man, when I was at Colorado, we played Washington, a championship game. Yeah. I mean, those are great games. And being a part of all that, I've been fortunate to be a part of a number of games like that, and certainly Super Bowl. But being a part of all that, I live for that.
When you're prepping for these games, Coach, as a coaching staff, do you the thought is, we got to come up with new stuff, new wrinkles, new this, new that, or is it more, let's just be really, really good at what we're really, really good at schematically?
Well, you want to be good at what you're good at, certainly. That's your thesis of your team and your kicking game and everything else like that. But you want to get your fake punch ready. You want to get your fake out of the field team, or
right.
Definitely want to have a pressure on defense that you haven't shown.
Okay.
A wrinkle, but you want to change your defense, but you want to have something they haven't seen. And offensively, certainly, you've been working trick plays the whole year. This might be a time that you have that ready. But yeah, I don't think you go in with everything you've got. I think you're going to add a few things here or there, but those things should have been worked on through the year. You don't just, all of a sudden come up with something. You might.
How do you just come up with something in week 10 that you haven't thought about in week 6 or week 4 or week 2 as a coach?
Well, you want to practice them. You don't want to just go out and do it. Now, it always happens. I mean, I've done things a day before, or I've done some crazy things, and we did it at San Francisco. I mean, the year we went to the Super Bowl, it's unbelievable some of the things we did. One time, a goal line defense that we ran, we put it in the night before,
right,
and it worked. So but you're going to want some things that are different. You don't want to, because those guys who study film so much, they're those players, they know what you're doing. Now your team is your team and your plays are your plays, but you want something different going, ready to use.
Talk about the electricity of being in those kind of stadiums when I would say all the marbles are on the line, but a lot of marbles are on the line, and you're the coach, and to be that, you got to make decisions, in-game decisions that matter. Just the I would say the nervousness, but I'm sure coaches get nervous too, right?
For sure. I mean, you get excited. I mean, I used to love that. I mean, the worst time for me was always in the locker room before we came out. I used to just get alone for 10 minutes or so, and before I went and saw the players and all those things, and that that was excruciating. I did not like that. When the game started, man, it was good. I mean, I never was nervous. I was excited, but I mean, when the game starts, it was everything's good. I never had an issue there. It's always before you went out and those things. But I loved it. Are you kidding me? The environments, and we're playing West Virginia and Raymond James, and it's 64,000, and they 4 or 5,000 that can't get in. You don't think I love that? Why would I not? We go to Auburn, got 90-something thousand, and I remember talking to the players the night before. That was always a big deal, and then right before we went out, I'll never forget going up playing Florida State and Bowden, and it was 83,000. They had just beat BYU 50-something to 17 or something like that. They're 18th in the country. And we're in that visiting locker room, and you could hear the boom, 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 boom from the feet in the stands. And the dust was rattling off the locker room. I mean, It was unbelievable. I jumped up on a table, and I said, baby, it's on. Are you kidding me? I was so fired up. I said, this is what we live for.
That's great.
This is what when you were a kid, when you were little, spring ball, winter conditioning, all those sprints, all the workouts. This is what we will embrace, that we love.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? This is what it's all about. I was so excited. And I told the players, you got to settle me down, please. And I did it almost to try to get their mind off it. I said, please, you guys got to help me here, because I want to go. I want to play.
That's great.
So yeah, those are great moments. And, especially when you win those games, and it's going to come down to overtime, and you play through the overtime,
and even more so when you're the road team in this kind of game. When you're Alabama, when you're Tennessee, when you're Clemson, you're going into the jungle where there's 95, 100,000.
Oh, no doubt. And your defense has got to perform. I mean, all the games that we played when we beat Auburn at Auburn, or beat Florida State at Florida State, and West Virginia, our defense always rose up, and you got that's your foundation. And certainly these teams that are going on the road, their defense has got to play. Because it's so hard, especially early in the game, for the offenses to hear things.
Right.
Might get rattled, and the defense has got to play and give offense time, to get going. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal.
All right, Coach. Well, great job again. We are week 10. We are into November. This is winning time here for all these teams, these championship teams. We've laid the foundation for 2 or 3 months now. Now it's time to go win a title. Great work this week, Coach. And we will. I'm gonna be at the Bucks Rams game too this week. I'm gonna be working Rams radio. I'm gonna be up in the booth with the Rams radio people working in the booth. So I'll look for you at Raymond James.
Well, and all these championship is all going. That's why I've got the USC and the Oregon, 3 top 10 teams in the Pac-12. So I always kind of honor that a little bit, since I was in that conference so many years. But you're right, it's on. I mean, you gotta win. Got to win now.
You got it. Well, thanks for the time, Coach. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, see ya.
We'll be right back on Florida Football Insiders with Eric Henry to talk FIU Panthers.